Piers, Fears, Crony, Tony, and BBC on being too PC. These are the interesting times. Hello everybody and welcome to The Interesting Times, a show that likes to take a sideways swipe at politics right here in the UK. And we have good news and bad news. The good news is that the country now has somebody in a fairly high up position who knows what they're doing and is looking after the most poorest and most vulnerable in our society. The bad news is the Premier League starts again next week and he has to go back to work. Marcus Rashford, after getting the government to do a U-turn on free school meals for the poorest children in the country back in June, the England striker is at it again, teaming up with supermarkets to enable Fair Share, a food-based charity started in the 90s to help feed some 1 million of this country's poorest people. Now I know what you're thinking, isn't that the sort of thing the government should be doing? Well, Department of Works and Pensions Minister Therese Coffey was busy being interviewed on Kay Burley's show on Sky to talk about the government's £2 billion kickstart scheme to get youngsters into work. Kay Burley then delivered the slowest of softball questions by asking her about the new series of Strictly Come Dancing.
What do you make of Nicola Adams dancing as the first same-sex couple?
Well, I think it's a new venture for the BBC. They're used to breaking new ground on the dance floor. It'll be interesting to see who leads and who doesn't.
Yeah, because you're not in favour of same-sex marriage, are you?
Well, I took the view at the time and I still hold to that.
And that has got to be Therese's most embarrassing moment on film since this one. That was a clip of a homophobic member of one of the most anti-immigration governments of modern times singing a song sung and written by a gay refugee. Therese, it seems, can't help but be tone deaf in everything she does. It was Keir Starmer's birthday on Wednesday. So what do you get for the leader of the opposition? How about something to make his job easier?
Prime Minister.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. We got some footage actually taken from Wednesday's PMQs.
So a straight answer to a straight question, please, Prime Minister. When did the Prime Minister first know that there was a problem with the algorithm?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, perhaps I could begin by congratulating the right honourable gentleman on his birthday.
So let me ask again, when did the Prime Minister first know there'd be a problem with the algorithm?
All summer long, Mr. Speaker, he's been going around undermining confidence, spreading doubt.
There's no grip. His own MPs are right, aren't they?
He backed, and perhaps he still does, Mr. Speaker.
I think there are questions being asked. We do need to try and answer the questions that's being put to the Prime Minister.
Yeah, well, it is called Prime Minister's Questions, not Prime Minister's Answers. It may have been Keir Starmer's birthday, but it's clear only one of them was on a bender the night before. Boris? Boris? Busy week in the Corbyn household. On Monday, a poll was held to find out the best Prime Minister we never had. And the winner was Jeremy Corbyn. And he filmed his acceptance speech from, I'm going to say, his allotment.
It is that power of that movement and that voice that I'm so proud to be a part of.
All right, calm down. It's not the Oscars. But clearly, this is all a bit of fun, as the organiser, Matt Chorley, pointed out, who ran the poll for Times Radio, who, true story, are the radio station for the Times. The Times. Who owns the Times? Oh well, nice to see somebody had their bank holiday ruined. The Times, though, was strangely quiet on this poll, and as such, it was left to the Daily Express to send their congratulations on behalf of the right-wing press everywhere. Stay classy, Express. And on the previous Saturday, his brother Piers Corbyn had organised a rally against, well, everything. Have a look. We have COVID deniers, anti-maskers, anti-social distancing, anti-media, anti-5G, and a sign saying, fuck Bill Gates and his pedo mates for the pro-QAnon brigade. And rather worryingly, a mere 75 years after the Nazis had a go, the British Union of Fascists managed to make it to Trafalgar Square. Look, it would be extremely easy to label these people as a bunch of crackpots and cranks. Piers was then interviewed on G&B by one of his peers, Piers Morgan, and Piers, Corbyn that is, took some questions from his home in South East London, which, with his folders, scattered papers and signs saying #StopNewNormal, has to be the cliche of cliches when we're talking about conspiracy theories. That is, until you hear from the central piece of this montage of eccentricities. Now, before we show you this clip, a little game. Just see how many times during the next 60-second clip you find yourself saying, wow, to yourself.
25 million people around the world have tested positive for coronavirus, COVID-19.
Well, yes, but you see...
And over 800,000...
Well,
hang on, let me finish the question, then I will let you answer.
These tests don't work. These tests do not work.
Let me finish the question. And over
don't interrupt me when I'm answering.
I won't. I'll let you answer. Over 800,000 people have now died from COVID-19. That is a demonstrable fact. Now, what part of that do you think does not constitute a pandemic?
Well, 800,000 people have died and they've been labelled COVID when it might have been completely something else. It is not a pandemic because the numbers dying are nothing different from a normal year of people dying, as they die all the time. And secondly, it is not a high consequence infectious disease, and that was declared by the government and the World Health Organization on March the 19th. So what we have is a psychological operation to close down the economy in the interests of mega corporations who are going to gain out of massive joblessness happening upon us now.
Well, Piers, Morgan that is, really took Piers, Corbyn, would be really easier just to use the last names. OK, so Morgan took Corbyn to task over his vagueness and lack of clarity on the subject. With that in mind, don't expect any government ministers to be back on G&B anytime soon. Also, I would love to see a reality show with this family. It's September, so please can we have a think about maybe Christmas with the Corbyns? Come on, Channel 4, make it happen. We have a new trade envoy, a former Australian PM, no less. Good. We're going to need some fresh ideas and some forthrightness in dealing with potentially difficult governments around the world. So here's a short clip of them in action.
I will not be lectured about sexism and misogyny by this man. I will not. And the government will not be lectured about sexism and misogyny by this man. Not now, not ever. The Leader of the Opposition says that people who hold sexist views and who are misogynists are not appropriate for high office. Well, I hope the Leader of the Opposition has got a piece of paper and he is writing out his resignation. Because if he wants to know what misogyny looks like in modern Australia, he doesn't need a motion in the House of Representatives, he needs a mirror. That's what he needs.
Pretty inspiring stuff. And you can see why that has been voted most memorable political speech in so many online polls. There's just one problem. We haven't got Julia Gillard, we've gone for the misogyny guy. Tony Abbott has been lined up to help with post-Brexit trade talks, but is he qualified to join the Conservative government?
He's a homophobe and he's a misogynist.
He's qualified. Although, to give him his due, he's also a climate change denier and has stated that he believes old people with COVID-19 should be left to die. Serious questions have been raised about this particular individual, but honestly, it's getting tough to find people that want the job. I've turned it down twice. And as Matt Hancock rightly points out...
He's also an expert in trade.
There you go, see, good at trade. I'm sure the people that we'll be dealing with won't have a problem with a homophobic misogynist. The new BBC Director General is Tim Davie, who, it had been reported, was planning to assert his authority by cutting down on left-wing comedy. Newsflash, he wasn't. Besides, telling people that they aren't allowed to make fun of this, or even this, that's not redressing the balance, that's entrapment. Anyway, didn't I hear Mark Dolan's already putting something out there? A right-wing satirical comedy show on talk radio called Free Speech. Take a look.
If you want to save lives and get the country back on track, the only option is to get back to normal. And the first step to achieving that is to get rid of these wretched, god-awful, damned, blinking, uncomfortable, scientifically empty, useless masks. This is Talk Radio.
He is hilarious. Refusing to wear a mask during a pandemic. Brilliant. Where does he get his ideas? And to add to the humour of his point, the mask that he cut up after using was a single-use mask. Well played, Mark Dolan. Comedy gold. But he wasn't the only one. On Thursday, after the BBC's U-turn on having the lyrics sung to Land of Hope and Glory, Jacob Rees-Mogg took a special recording to House of Commons with hilarious results.
Leader of the House. Mr. Speaker, I wonder...
Okay, I might have overplayed the comedy in that. Now, if you want to see Jacob really bring the house down, try this.
Jacob, you supported Boris for the leadership, didn't
great
you?
man.
Until he was...
Brilliant. Classic posh twat. Brexit, sleepwalking into disaster. We need people who know what they're doing. Like this guy. This is Rod Mackenzie, who is the Director of Policy at the Road Haulage Association.
The chief concerns of the industry are right now?
Well, we need a deal, whether it's this deal or a deal with a nip, a tuck or a shot of Botox. I'm not too bothered, but we need a deal. And the alternative is a cliff edge Brexit, which has very, very serious implications for our industry. And there is simply not enough information that tells haulage companies what they need to do in clear and simple terms. Confusing, not enough of it. We're in trouble.
That does look bad, but actually that clip was from December 2018, so heading for 2 years ago. Let's go for an update.
We are heading for a shambles. It is a real case of the government sleepwalking to a disaster. And the reason is there's an awful lot of different and apparently contradictory IT systems, probably about 10. We're not clear whether they work because they're new and untested, and we're not clear whether they talk to each other.
On the number of customs officials, where are we in terms of the numbers required as far as you're aware?
Well, we've got about 5,000 now. We need 50,000 customs officials to fill in all the forms.
Rod, you paint a pretty disastrous sounding image, really, of what it could be like after the 31st of December. But let me put this to you from Grant Shapps this morning, who said he was confident that supply chains will cope with the end of the Brexit transition period.
Oh dear. So, untested systems, little in the way of progress, only 1,000 custom agents added in 20 months and another 45,000 to find in the next 4 months. And the only sliver of confidence comes from a man so inept at his job, he gets caught up in the quarantine put in place by his department. We're going to need a bigger lorry park. Well, that's it for another week. If you are enjoying these vids, then please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell. And I'll see you all next Monday. Take care.